So one of the things that we now know is that there are issues of input disparity when it comes to the quantity of motherese, of child-directed speech that's so useful for, in this case, helping develop vocabulary, although many other things, but we're going to focus on vocabulary development. And so Dr. Anne Fernald is one who has worked on this. This is actually a clip that shows some of the work from her lab, but this is a quote from that article. It's clear that the words spoken directly to a child, this motherese, this child-directed speech, rather than those simply heard in the home, the overheard speech that's not directed at the child, are what builds vocabulary, right? So telling parents is the first step. Many who volunteered themselves and their children for the study didn't know they could help their babies do well simply by speaking to them, right? So this is part of just sort of public awareness, right? Like, it's actually really good to talk to your child, right? And on average, though, there are notable differences across socioeconomic status. So children from lower socioeconomic status, SES, families show slower vocabulary growth relative to their higher SES peers, and these differences persist into the school years. And so it's a big question, like, where do these differences come from exactly? And research suggests that it's part of the problem anyway is variation in parents' speech to children. The motherese, the differences in the motherese that these children are getting as a function of SES across the different SES strata, that relates very much to children's development when it comes to language. So a landmark study from 1995 was Hart and Risley, and it revealed dramatic differences in the amount that parents talk to their young children as a function of SES. And so in their sample, that by age 4, children from professional families of high SES hear a total of 45 million words on average, while children living in poverty hear 13 million words on average. So this finding is often described as the 30 million word gap, right? It's the simple difference in overall quantity, not even looking at anything else about it, just differences in basic amount of child-directed speech. And importantly, again, these quantitative differences in parents' language input have been shown to uniquely predict aspects of the language development, such as vocabulary growth and the speed of processing familiar words. So not just your knowledge itself of vocabulary, but your ability to process words in real time, to use that knowledge in real time. And both of those develop more slowly when you have fewer words that you've heard that have been directed at you. And so there's also differences in quality. Remember, we talked about diversity of word tokens, and so lower SES households will have fewer rare words, and higher educated parents, so from higher SES, you're going to get more diversity of words, more word tokens, more word types, and more of those decontextualized utterances where you're talking about things that are not just about the here and now, that are more complex, that help scaffold vocabulary development at 3 and 4, right? These quality features really make a difference, and there are differences across SES in the studies that Rowe has done. And so, again, just sort of summarizing some of the things we know is that as early as 18 months, there are group-level differences in vocabulary knowledge and language processing efficiency between lower SES and higher SES toddlers, right? You're already seeing this at 18 months. Remember, there's so much stuff happening before 18 months. And, the difference in the quantity and quality of motherese that these kids are hearing has an effect, right? You get smaller vocabularies, you get slower processing, right? And so here's another study. By 24 months, there's a 6-month gap if you want to sort of quantify the amount or ability, right? There's a 6-month gap between SES groups and language processing efficiency, right? So infants who hear richer language from their caregivers early in life develop stronger language processing skills. So the fact that there's a difference in the amount and the richness, the quality of the speech that lower SES children versus higher SES children encountered, that really has an impact at 18 months and now at 24 months, where you're seeing, you can actually tell you're 6 months behind from your lower SES groups. And specifically, children at the lower end of the SES spectrum tend to receive, as I just said, significantly less high quantity and high quality language experience. They hear fewer instances of child-directed speech, and it's not as complex, it's not as rich in these various respects, which subsequently affects their ability to learn words and to process words. And since words are the foundation of lots of other aspects of language knowledge, like this slows them down when it comes to learning all those other aspects of language knowledge that depend on word knowledge. And then another study from 2018 has to do with syntactic bootstrapping for grade school age children ages 8 to 15. So remember, syntactic bootstrapping is the ability to use words in their linguistic context, right? So words in combination with other words. How does this word combine with other words? Where is this word appearing in the utterance to help figure out what that word means? And this is something that's extremely powerful for learning words that are not linked to things that are easy to pick out from context. So verbs and prepositions and determiners, all these different types of words really benefit from the ability to use syntactic bootstrapping, to use the syntactic context, the linguistic context to help you figure out what that word might mean. And it turns out that children of lower socioeconomic status are not as effective at doing this, right? They're not as good at using known vocabulary and linguistic context to build a robust picture or concept of the incoming language and use that to identify the meaning of an unknown word, right? So this is another sort of thing, in addition to just general language processing efficiency, right, that really, really impacts your ability to learn new words.